أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي ربنا زدنا علما اللهم فقهنا في الدين. Inshallah, today we will be studying from ayat number 261 onwards, Surah al-Baqarah. Now, the topic for today's ayat is mainly around charity, and we have studied about charity even before, but the main theme over here is the etiquettes of charity and what should we do and what should we not do. Usually, we have studied where to give charity and how much to give charity. Over here, we are taught the mannerisms, what to avoid and what not to. Even when we were studying the verses related to divorce, you could see there was also a theme about being maruf, about being kind to the other person. So the mannerisms are also very important. It shows that akhlaq, the characteristics of a Muslim, is very important. It's not just the rituals, it's not just giving money in a certain cause, it is how we do it. So inshallah we will study that, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us become better in our deeds. In whatever actions we do according to how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will accept them from us, inshallah. So ayat number 261, Masalu, example, Allazina, of those who, Yunfiquna, Nun Faqaf is the root, which means to spend. So example of those who spend, Amwalahum, Mim Waw Lam, also the mal, the wealth, Fi, in Sabilillahi, in the way of Allah. Sabil means way, the root is Subul, Sin Ba Lam. So the person who spends money in the way of Allah, his example is like what? Kamasali is like habbatin, a grain. Hababa, a grain. Ambatat, noun bata is the root which means to grow. So a grain which grows. Sab'a, seven. Sanabila, sanabil is the plural of the word sumbul, which means ears or branch. So which grows 7 branches, 7 years. Fi, in kulli, each sumbulatin, in each sumbul, in each branch, in each ear. Mi'atu, 100. Habbatin, 100 grains. So the example of a person who spends in the way of Allah is like an example of a grain which grows 7 branches, and each branch has 100 grains. So how many do these become? One grain, one habba was put in the ground. How many grew out of it? 700. Right? Wallahu, and Allah, yudaifu, dwad ain fa, which means increases, liman, to whom, yasha'u, he wills. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala might increase more and more and more for people, depending on the factors such as the intentions, how kindly, beautifully it was given, and all those things that we will study, inshallah. Wallahu, and Allah, wasi'un, he's wasi, he's all-encompassing, alim, all-knowing. So we get the idea that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving an example so people can understand better. It can feel real to them that just like it is not in our control in this dunya, even when we put a habba, a grain, inside the ground, is it in our control that we will grow like around 100 grains out of it? When we put one seed of orange, entire tree grows from it, right? Same from apple, same everything. So a wheat grain or something like that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that each grain sprouts to have 7 branches, 7 ears, and each ear has 100 grains. So right away you can see that just like each small grain can produce 700 or more or slightly less, it's not exact calculation that whichever you will pick up from the farm, from the land, it will have exactly 700. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving us an example so we can see just like that is not in our control. In the same way, we might not see the rewards of charity, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can increase it to 700, and He increases it to whoever He wants. And how does that work? It depends on what was our intention when we are giving. Were we trying to show off? Was our intention to do something like to increase the networking in a certain place, to become good in the eyes of people, to become more popular, and to use to get favors from those people? Was all these part of the intentions? No. If the intention is very clear, it is purely for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it is purely for helping the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then Allah will increase it even more. Ayat number 262, Allazina, those who, yunfiquna, noon fa qaf, again spend, amwalahum, their wealth, mim waw lam is the root, in sabilillahi, in the way of Allah, thumma, then, la, not, yutbi'una, taba'ain, taba'a, if it does not follow, if they don't follow, ma, what, anfaqu, they spend, whatever they are spending is not going to follow, it's not going to follow what? Manna, reminders of generosity. Meaning, like, you keep telling the other person that I do this much for you, or telling somebody else as well, or showing authority over that person, their family. Why are you spending over here? That's not why I give you money. I give you money precisely for your children's education. Why are you buying clothes for them? Or why are you celebrating their birthday? And so manna is everything where you're reminding them too much. It is overwhelming for the person, where it is reminded in a very rude way, in a very crass way. Wala, and not, and what else is not following that money? Adhan, hurt. So you are not hurting that person by saying that you have no idea how to spend money properly. How do you run out of money so fast? I gave you the electricity bill, but you guys are using it way too much. Why do you need the fridge? Why do you need the washing machine? So azan is hurting the other person. Lahum, for them, ajruhum, their reward, ajr, hamza jimra, and the is with rabbihim, their Rabb, their Lord. So those who don't do the manna and azan, those people who spend the money and their money is not followed by man and azan, they are the ones, they will get ajr from their Rabb. They will get the ajr that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has promised in the previous ayat, that it will grow to 700 or more. And what else Allah mentions over here? Wala, and not, khawfun, fear, alayhim, on them, wala, and not, whom, they, yahzanun, comes from the root hazainun, which means to grieve, have any grief. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that these people will get the rewards from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the other thing is that in this dunya also, they will not have any khawf, any fear, and any huzn, yahzanun. They will not be grieving it. They will not be sad about anything, especially about spending money. Why did I spend money? Now I have lost my job. They will always have good feeling about giving money in charity. They will never regret it. Those people who spend in the way of Allah, they will not have to face times where they will regret giving this money. Now let's study 263, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells the people. So in the first ayat today, we studied how Allah can increase the reward, how Allah gives a reward for the charity. In number 2, Allah tells us what exactly should not be following our charity. This reward is only for those people whose charity is not followed. There is no aza and there is no manna coming after they give charity. In this ayat, upcoming ayat, we will be studying the alternative of giving charity, where when you have a chance that your charity is going to be invalidated because of the manna and the adha. If there is a case, if there is a feeling that you are going to end up wasting your charity, in fact, not just wasting your charity, but even increasing in sins, then you should not give charity. Instead, what you should do, qawlun, a word, ma'arufun, kind, Ain Rafa. This is the same word which you've been studying when we studied the ayat related to the divorce. So a word that is kind, wa, and what else? Maghfiratun, and seeking forgiveness, is khairun, is better. These two things are better than min sadaqatin, than a charity and then a sadaqa, yatba'uha taba'ain, which is followed by adhan, by hurt. So if there is a chance that your sadaqa is going to be followed with adhan, the hurting of people, the reminding them again and again, then don't spend money on sadaqa. Instead, do qawlum maruf, use a kind word, just give them advice, just say something nice, just talk to them nicely. Even sometimes people, they don't want money, but they need some advice, they need to vent out to you. Just talking to people nicely, it's free. That is also charity, just like smiling is charity according to the hadith of Prophet, right? And it's free. We don't need to, if we have too much love for money, if it is too hard for us to part with our money, to part with our clothes, to part with our jewelry, part with anything, if we do not feel the purity yet in our heart to completely sympathize with the person so much that we can give our money and not remind them again and again, not make them feel bad about borrowing, or make them feel bad about asking for money for their child's education, or for paying bills, or for paying rent, or for paying for clothes or something. So of course the person who asks also is going to be questioned by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala about what he was asking for. If he's going to have like 7 different functions on his son's wedding, and if he's going to start his own big giant business, or if he's going to buy some sports car, then of course it's going to be he's going to be answerable to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A person who asks money, there are many ahadiths also relate to how he should be careful about, he should be mindful about what he's asking for. But at the same time, the person who's giving, who is on the other side, is also warned many times not to remind them, not to invalidate, even fall into more sins. So if we are told that if somebody is asking, it is up to us if we want to help them or we don't want to help them. But reminding them, hurting their feelings, that is not something allowed. That is not allowed at all. You cannot, because we don't know the reality. We don't know why they're asking and how desperate they are for that certain thing, right? So if you cannot understand their feelings, if you cannot understand their needs, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that don't take the risk of giving money. If you are so much in love with your money, just do qawlum maruf. At least talk nicely to people. At least be kind to them, be sincere to them, be big dua for them, also for yourself. And maghfirah. What is the second thing that is free? Seek forgiveness. Keep seeking forgiveness. Maybe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make your heart softer. Maybe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make it easier for you to give charity. If you're too attached to your material things, then make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Seek forgiveness for everything that is going on in your life, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make things easier for you. Khairum, it's better min sadaqatin, and the charity yatba'uha, which is followed by azan. Wallahu, and Allah ghaniyun halim, and Allah is all sufficient and all forbearing. So Allah is sufficient, all sufficient. Allah does not need money. Allah does not need our charity. It's just that it is a mercy on us that we are made the source of helping somebody. It's a mercy on us that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us the money to be able to help others, to be in a position to give money to others, which is not even ours, which is given to us by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah is all self-sufficient. Allah does not need money, and Allah can help that needy person by using somebody else's. This is a test for us. The money that we have in this world is a test for us, like what we do with it, how we spend on others. And Allah can, just like Allah gave it to us, Allah can take it away from us. It is not because we are so intelligent, or we know how to run a business, or we know how to spend money and save some, and we know like how to do money management and stuff. It is not that Allah needs your money. And Halim, Allah is forbearing. Ayat number 264. Ya ayyuhallazina amanu, O people who believe. La, do not. Tubtilu, batwalam, meaning invalidate. Batal. Sadaqatikum, your sadaqa, your charity. Bil manni wal adha, with reminders of it and the hurt of it. So you see how many times Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is reminding this again and again. This is extremely important. This is a really, really important piece of charity where you are making sure that I'm not doing anything wrong while giving it, because you are just wasting, you're not getting anything out of it. Okay? It's like putting that seed inside the earth and then keep opening it every time. Will it grow? No, it won't grow like that. If you crush the seed, or if you like completely waste the seed and then you put it, the half-eaten seed or something like that, will it grow? No, it won't grow. So if you are not mindful of how you are planting that tree, how you're planting that plant, then it's not going to grow. You have to take care of that. It takes a lot of effort. It's not just the money, it's not just seed that you're putting in the earth. You have to water it, you have to wait. There has to be a sabr, patience that is involved in it. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, Ya ayyuhallazina amanu, O people who believe, La tubtilu, do not make it in vain. Sadaqatikum, your charities, bil manni wal adha. Kallazi, like the one who yunfiqu, who spends, malahu, his wealth, ri'a annas. Ri'a, ra hamzaya, to be seen. So it's just like Allah is giving us an example that this kind of person is just like who shows off and wastes. So he wants to show off whatever he's giving. He wants to make sure when he's putting it in the box in the masjid, many people are watching, looking at him. Or if he's giving it to anyone, he tells others that, oh, I help him every month. Okay? So, ri'a an-nasi wala, and does not yu'minu, believe, billahi wal yawmil akhiri. You see what is the punishment? That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not even want these people to be called believers. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that if somebody has to do this, then they don't believe in Allah and on the day of judgment. Why? Because if you are wanting the reward in this dunya, if you want people to clap and like your charities on this social media and this dunya, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has nothing to give you, because you got your reward wherever you wanted it. If you wanted to save, be patient and get your reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, yes, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you 700 times and more. But if you'd rather get the reward from people, then you already got it. And Allah says that these people are not even believing in Allah and Akhirah. That means they don't believe in a day of judgment. If they don't want to wait for that day, that means they don't believe in it. They just want something immediately, instant gratification. Then Allah gives another example for masaluhu. Then his masal, his example, ka masali, is like an example of safwanin. Safwan is a smooth rock. Okay, so his example is like a smooth rock. Alayhi, upon it, turabun. Turab is dust, a layer of dust. Okay, so this kind of a person's example is like a smooth rock. Upon it is dust. فَأَصَابَهُ, then fall upon it. Then أَصَابَهُ, the root is swad wa ba, and it means reaches it. Wabilun, wabal means rain. Then it reaches rain. Then tarakahu, leaves it. Saldan, bare. Salda is also part of the forehead. The scalp has hair. Our head has hair, but the forehead, salda kind of. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that his example is like an example of, because the first example that we studied today in 261 ayat number was that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is like putting the seed in the earth and getting 700 seeds from it. Over here, you can't put a seed on a rock which is so smooth and just has a layer of dust, right? And then Allah mentions that if a rain reaches it, leaves it bare. It doesn't have anything. Of course, nothing can grow over there. La, not yaqdiruna. They have control, they have qadar, qawda al-ra, ala on shay'in, anything. They don't have any control on anything what? Mimma kasabu, of what they have earned. They don't even have control over what they have earned, what money that is lying in their banks, what kind of food is in their fridge. If Allah wants, everything can be destroyed immediately, and Allah can take it away immediately. They don't have control over anything that they even have. Wallahu, and Allah la does not yahdil, he gives guidance al-qawm al-kafirin, to people who disbelieve. Allah does not guide people who do not believe. So this is the example of a person who has all three illnesses. His Sadaqa will not yield him any harvest because it is not a nice ground, just like in the example in 261 was of a nice ground where one seed is put and 700 are harvested, right? It gives 700 for each one on average. But since this is not even a nice ground, the person is not good. He's attached to his material things. His heart is not soft. He is not believing properly in the day of. He's not convinced enough that Allah will reward me 700 times. So the ground is not firm. The ground is not fertile. It is just like a rock on which there is a small layer of dust. It's not a very good Muslim heart who believes in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that the ground is fertile enough that if one seed is put and 700 will be yielded. It is a very smooth, rocky ground where there is very little dust, very little feelings. And when the rain falls, meaning when the rain is the opportunity to earn rewards. Rain is the time when he is asked for money, when he can give some charity. But what happens? It just takes away even that dust. He just feels like, I don't need to give it. Or when he gives it, it is followed by hurting the person, reminding them, what do? You're here every month, you have to return it with the interest, or saying like showing off to people that, man, I give so much money to this family, I'm almost raising their children, and things like that. Okay, so whenever these things are followed, then the opportunity is, instead of giving crops, even that layer of dust is gone. That whatever there was, he becomes even worse person. He even increases in sins. Okay, so this is this example. So you can see that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions again for these people who think that my money, my clothes, my cars, my gadgets, that kind of a person who lives with that deception that everything is mine, I earned it, I did this. And Allah does not even call them Muslims. Allah says Allah does not guide the kafirin. So we have to be mindful and show it, express it with our words, our actions, our giving of charity. By every action that we do, by everything that we speak, we have to show that we have to express that it is all from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I did not earn it, I don't have control to keep it, and I should be giving it in a way that I was blessed to be a person, a source of helping the others. Allah has just given this to me so I can be helpful to others. وَمَثَلُ الَّذِينَ, and Allah gives another example now of those who يُنْفِقُونَ, those who spend أَمْوَالَهُم, their mal, their wealth, ibtigha'a baghayya. Baghi means to seek. So those who spend their wealth seeking mardatillahi. Mardat, rada is the root, meaning the pleasure of Allah. So the other was the example of a smooth rock, was the example of a person who does not give money with the sincerity to Islam. And now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving the example of a person who gives with complete sincerity, with the ikhlas, that I want to do this because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given me the opportunity to earn rewards. So the person who gives his wealth ibtigha'a mardatillahi, meaning to seek the pleasure of Allah, then what happens? وَتَثْبِيتًا, and with the tasbeet, with the sabat, with the certainty, min anfusihim, in their souls. in their nafs. So if they have conviction that this is all true, Allah will reward me, there is a day of judgment, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give me rewards. So this kind of a person, his example is kamasali, is like jannatin, meaning a garden, bi rabwatin, raba wow, meaning on a higher place, height. So they have a garden on a height. The other person didn't have a garden. It was like a smooth rock with just a layer of dust. Nothing can grow there, especially when there is rain, it completely gets washed away. Over here, this person, the kind person, is like a garden which is on a height, meaning it gets complete sunlight from, it's beautiful to look at and everything. Asabaha, swadwaba, same root, fell on it, reached it, wabilun, a rain, fa'atat, so it yielded, hamza ta'ya is the root, so it gave, ukulaha, its harvest, hamza kaf lam, its food, its harvest, its crop. Da'faini, du'at ain fa, meaning double. So it gives double. It gives it very easily. For in, and then if lam does not yusibha, swad waba, if it does not reach it, wabilun, a heavy rain, then, so wabil is heavy rain and tol is drizzle. So Allah mentions that if a heavy rain does not, if there is not enough rain, then what is also enough for it? Fatallun. Then a drizzle is also enough. Then a light rain is also enough for this, because it is in such a beautiful place, it is in such a good place that it gets all the nutrients it needs, it gets it. Wallahu bima ta'maluna basir, and Allah of what you do is basir. So whatever actions you do, however, what are your mannerisms in giving your charity, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all seer. So from this example, we see that a person does not need very big opportunities. So if he is like a nice garden who is in a very raised ground, meaning a person with a good heart, with the good intention, with good plans, with good thinking about how I want to spend this money. There is a big portion supposed to go in the way of Allah. If you live your life like that, you don't need that Allah sends an opportunity in your lap. You will find opportunities, you will have all the nutrients to get your reward, because Allah will give you the reward just even because of your intention, because you're finding ways to yield that crop. Inshallah, I hope Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give us opportunities, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make our hearts softer and will make us among the people who give charity without showing off, or without wasting it, or without hurting other people's feelings, without saying any negative remarks, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept everything from us. I did want to add some of the hadiths of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam on the topic of charity, but inshallah I will, because otherwise it will become too long. So I will add them in the next lesson, inshallah. Subhanakallahumma bihamdika nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.